All right, everyone. Damian Lillard has requested a trade. Victor Wembanyama has played horribly and has played awesome. The Lakers have the best team in the NBA. But more importantly, I think than any of this, more impactfully than anything that we could possibly talk about in the short-term NBA, and something that's really interested me and the concept of has kind of confused me but kind of interests me at the same time, the NBA in-season tournament. I've been kind of sitting mulling, thinking about what I want to make a video about for the last couple of days, but one thing has really stuck out to me once they had the full reveal of this tournament, and something I feel like isn't really being discussed enough is how impactful this in-season tournament may be. The NBA is trying to shake up the snow globe a little bit and introduce something that American sports fans haven't really come accustomed to, but international soccer fans would be able to tell you is quite a common thing in their leagues. The NBA is introducing its first ever NBA Cup. The moment this idea was thrown around a lot in this new CBA conversations years ago, I mean, they've talked about this for years now. It's kind of wild that it's finally coming to fruition. I had a lot of questions on whether the players would care for it and what it would really look like. And I think a lot of those questions were answered in the 20-30-minute spiel that Adam Silver and the league did at NBA Con about the new NBA in-season tournament. Something that really solved all of my potential issues with this tournament and this whole idea was making sure that all of these in-tournament games count as regular season games. The only game that is outside of the normal regular season schedule is the championship game. That kind of solved all my issues with it, right? Because it sounded weird to get all of these players and teams and coaches to stop what they were doing. This is what I had envisioned in my head, was like they were all going to stop what they were doing in the middle of the regular season, do this in-season tournament. Why do they care? What is the incentive? Now, basically everything is solved. If you take anything away from this entire point of this video, is that my whole stance on this has been, the moment I found that out, has been, these are just games that were gonna be boring anyways. The NBA has not taken away anything. So any possible concerns or confusions or questions that you could possibly have about this tournament, I personally believe they are all solved with the statistics and the records all counting the exact same. If you don't give a shit about this tournament, you don't have to. You're going to care maybe just as much about this tournament as you would have for the 13th game in the regular season in November, which wasn't really a time in the NBA that was being taken up by a lot of other things, besides beginning of the season basketball. I think everybody has a lot of questions and confusions about this potential tournament, so I just wanted to make this video. I think this is the biggest question everybody has about this tournament, specifically, is why? Why are we doing it? What do we have to gain? And I guess, theoretically, what could possibly be taken away from this tournament? Which is nothing. Number one, the NBA is clearly trying to give us a reason to watch November basketball. You've heard the saying, I don't watch NBA until the All-Star game. I don't watch the NBA till Christmas. I don't watch the NBA until the playoffs start. I don't watch the NBA till the finals start. You've heard all of those sayings. So now in the most dead possible months of the NBA, besides maybe February, the NBA will, at least for about 2 weeks, be the talk of the town. And that is all they want. All they want is just to be continuing the media cycle all year round. That's kind of the goal of all these sports. You know, be the most talked about, gain the most money, get the most advertising revenue. All of that. That's really what all these leagues are here for. So, and I think we can look at the NFL as a great example of this. The NFL has mastered the idea and the art of having a year-round media cycle. The NFL has the opening weekend special, every single game is important and has urgency, but that NFL opening weekend, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like popping open that NFL Red Zone on that first Sunday of the year. And you go from opening day to the playoffs, and every game in the regular season has huge amounts of urgency. You get to the playoffs, and it's one-game elimination every single game. You can go 17-0, and it all could be gone in that one game. That creates urgency. The Chiefs inevitably win their 12th Super Bowl. And right as the season ends, free agency starts. And right as free agency ends, the combine starts. And right as the combine ends, the draft starts. And right as the draft ends, OTAs begin and training camp. And then all of a sudden, it's August, and we're like, holy shit, it's preseason, football's back. The NFL has mastered the idea of everybody talking about the NFL year-round. The NBA, the offseason, they certainly do a good job on free agency. The draft can somewhat be exciting. This year's draft obviously was a lot more exciting than most NBA drafts, but the NBA draft doesn't hold a candle to the NFL draft. The NBA doesn't have like a combine that people actually tune in to watch. Now, how many people are actually watching the combine? I don't know, but it's definitely more than whatever the pre-draft workouts could be for the NBA. They don't even televise that. So I think it's important to understand what the NBA is trying to accomplish in a lot of these different things with this tournament, and one of them is to be talked about in a time where the NBA is not talked about. To be on the FS1 and the ESPN shows, to be on the Bleacher Report and the Instagram feeds, it's all of that. Another huge reason I think the NBA is trying this in-season tournament out, and something that they think could possibly be a positive side effect from this tournament, is players don't play in the NBA. The best players in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Aaron Donald and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, those were a lot of Chiefs players. I apologize. We're just really good. They play every single game. A lot of that has to do with the schedule. You got 17 games, or 14 or 16, right? Like, every single game is vitally important to an NFL team. The NBA, you got 82 games, and I will be a proponent of shortening the season for a long time now, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think this in-season tournament is a way to incentivize players to maybe play a couple more games than they would have. Now, do I necessarily think that that is actually going to work? No. I don't. And obviously depends on how young and the type of player this person is and whatnot, and depends on each team. This first year of this tournament, and really the first decade of this tournament, is all going to be experimental. We all have to remember the NBA is a relatively super young league. The NBA is a teenager compared to the adults in the room of baseball and soccer and other sports. The NBA hasn't been around that long. So as much as NBA fans, I'm a basketball historian myself. I love the comparison of era to era, but you see when Adam Silver comes out and he says, we're going to do a play-in tournament and we're going to do an in-season tournament, people clearly reject the idea just because they just love the purity of the league always being the same, and that is half the reason why a lot of us watch. We love to watch just to compare. We love to watch Jokic just to be like, all right, where is he top 10? LeBron wins his 4th championship. All right, is he better than Michael Jordan? Like, I get that. I love comparing those guys just as much as the next. But again, this league is relatively super, super young. There's a lot of time for this thing to grow and become its own thing and build some culture behind it. So if I think it's game 2 of the group play games and the Lakers are playing the Grizzlies and LeBron has a sore ankle, do I think he's going to get in the ice bath and post like these emojis? Be like, rise and grind, not missing this one, when he otherwise wouldn't have played? No, I don't think that. I don't think almost any of these NBA players are going to be pushing through injuries that they rather wouldn't have just because of this in-season tournament. I don't really think that's going to happen for the next 5 to 10 years, but if in 15 to 20 years this in-season tournament has built some small amount of culture and excitement behind it, maybe that's a positive side effect. I'm just kind of thinking what the NBA is looking at here. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. Another huge, absolutely huge reason that I didn't really think about, but I listened to on some podcast, I don't remember which, it might have been Bill Simmons, I don't remember. It is safe to say the NBA All-Star Game is ass. The culmination of every GM and executive and NBA executive and player and coach, the one mecca event of basketball a year. And it's a horrible corporate weekend of players doing these random activities and signing basketballs and saying hello to every possible person they could possibly say hello to and bringing them through this like social. You're bringing a lot of these players through this social reckoning of a weekend, and then you expect them to, on the very, very end of that entire weekend, to play a basketball game that's completely meaningless. So yeah, I don't know how to fix the All-Star game. That's not really what I'm here to say. But I do think the NBA wants a spot or a thing where the NBA, everybody can congregate and go to one place and watch good competitive basketball, but also be on brand and the cameras everywhere for everybody. Adam Silver wants nothing more than a lubricated Vegas crowd who is not rooting for the Celtics or the Sixers. They're just rooting for a cool dunk or a crossover or a cool layup or a cool three. Adam Silver wants that lubricated crowd to see Joel Embiid do a step-back three dagger in Vegas and then look to the camera and say, "I want the cup." And then Mark Jackson goes, "Mama, there goes that man." And then it gets put on Bleacher Report and it gets 8 million likes. That's what the NBA wants, more than anything. Adam Silver wants to be able to bring all of his super rich buddies, and the NBA owners want to bring all of their super rich buddies to an event of the NBA that doesn't suck ass. So more than anything, I think that is what the NBA wants. The NBA wants a Super Bowl type of scenario. They're never getting close to the Super Bowl. But you get what I'm saying. It's a neutral crowd. It's a crowd full of these executives and people that will be, putting money into these leagues and huge, high-profile things happening on these weekends. What better place to have the Final Four of this tournament than in Las Vegas? I will say, the NBA, can we just get a team in Las Vegas at this point? I mean, how many fucking things are we going to have in this goddamn city? I mean, at this point, they should just sponsor Vegas. And a last but not least kind of Pandora's box of a topic, especially for the NBA, is I think this is yet another move for an anti-tank. We all know that European soccer has the anti-tank system down to a T is an understatement to the word T. They have tanking completely eliminated from the sport. European soccer says if you lose enough and you're bad enough, I don't know whether it's like bottom 1, 2, or I think it's bottom 3 in the Premier League. I don't know if different leagues are different. Sorry, I'm not the biggest soccer fan. If you're one of the worst teams in the league, you're out. You are in the league below. Now, obviously, I'm not saying the NBA should introduce relegation. That speaks to the age of this league. Soccer, it's just a different sport. It's the biggest sport in the world. There are so many different teams and leagues. There's enough foundational pieces that you can do that you can have teams jumping from league to league, and that's okay. Basketball clearly doesn't have that. If the Spurs were, that's a bad example now, but if the Hornets were out of the league next year and we replaced them with a G League team, the G League team would win like 2 games. And the Hornets would dominate G League. It's just not even, it's not worth discussing. But that doesn't mean you can't have some, measures to try to stop anti-taking. I think the plan was a fantastic, not solution, but something small that helps. If you're a team on the borderline of tank or play-in, especially considering we just saw the Lakers and the Heat both in play-in games, and the Heat literally almost were out of the play-in entirely, the Heat made the finals, and the Lakers made the conference finals. I mean, it's now we've seen it in action. If you make the play-in, you can get there. The play-in was a resounding success. The NBA wanted more single-game eliminations and wanted teams that were tanking to stop. And obviously, you're not going to stop all tanking, but for the middle pack of the NBA, it has incentivized them to go up instead of down. Obviously, you're going to have those bottom 5 teams every single year. That's just how competitive sports work. But we've seen a lot less tanking measures, I would say. Certainly nothing like the Sixers back in 2016. And then they almost beat the 73-9 Warriors. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And yet again, the NBA is trying to introduce incentives for bad teams. There's 30 teams in the NBA. There's 32 teams in the NFL. I don't know how many teams are in the MLS, but every team can't be good. Every team can't make the playoffs. Every team can't make the finals. Every team can't win the championship. You need to have things at every single level for people to get excited about. That's just how every sport should work. What's the point of watching if my team's going to be winning 20 out of 82 regular season games? The MLS, as a sporting Kansas City fan, gave me... When we were trash at the beginning of last year, and we ended up being kind of okay, but whatever. But in the midst of one of the worst seasons, definitely the worst season I have ever watched as a sporting Kansas City fan, which isn't many seasons, but the worst season I've ever watched, I wasn't watching a lot of games. But then the U.S. Open Cup came around, and all of a sudden I was invested because it gave my bad team something to look forward to. So even if it's Wizards Thunder, I guess the Thunder are a pretty good team now. Pretty solid team, at least. If the NBA Cup championship is Wizards Hornets, you know what? This championship game is replacing literally nothing besides the 13th game of an 82-game schedule in November, giving bad teams a reason to want to actually put forward your chips. And you know what? It's giving these teams a reason to put wins on the board early in the season to where later in the year you've added up maybe 5 to 9 wins that you wouldn't have otherwise had. And now instead of seeing, we're 4 games away from being able to slide into that lottery that nowadays is so beneficial to the teams that weren't at the bottom of the league now. Now you can say, well, fuck it, we're just going to try to make the plan. And also, I just think... I guess this is my last point. I know that I said that was my last point, but this is my last point. Is that I think it's just good for the overall health of the league to introduce something really early in the season. I mean, really early in the season. That is something to maybe push these teams to kind of get more into a more competitive groove. And my main point with this entire thing, this whole thing, is that it's not replacing anything. So any possible anger or question or concern you could possibly have about this tournament, what is it replacing? What is being taken away from you? The Pelicans trying to go 6-9? Now, obviously, I have as many questions as you guys. Will the players actually care about this tournament? For the first, decade, there's a chance that nobody gives a shit about this cup. For a decade. That's the thing about the cup, is it doesn't have to be the championship. It's not the championship. It'd be silly to pretend it is the NBA championship. It's not. But it's something to get the NBA talked about in November. It's something to maybe help tanking. It also gives fans who are fans of horrible teams an actual reason to watch, because maybe if all these other teams don't care about the cup, maybe we will. And maybe that's something to hang your hat on. And by that point, you might have 10 more wins than you thought you were going to have in the regular season. And why tank now? Because we've already won this many. I'm interested to see how it all works. I'm interested to see how the group plays work every year. I think they said that it's based on regular season records. But is that different every single year? Or is this just the groups we have now? I will say, me and my buddy were talking the other day, and it's this would have been a fantastic time to introduce divisions in the NBA. I'm really against the whole division thing in the NBA. The NFL, the divisions matter so much. You got 17 games, and you play your teams twice every year, home and away. Doesn't matter, every year. You're going to build some rivalries. That's how rivalries start, is getting teams to play a shit ton. I kind of thought this was just going to be the perfect way to introduce divisions as a more meaningful thing in the league. But hey, maybe that's an addition for later years. And I understand they're trying to be a lot like soccer. If they want the group play, Adam Silver is trying to replicate almost everything that European soccer does. And it's smart because it's the most popular sport in the world. It makes sense. I just, as a fan of divisions and what divisions bring to leagues and rivalries and whatnot, I'll have plenty more videos come out about Wembanyama and the Lillard situation and basically everything that's happened to free agency with the Lakers and a bunch of other teams. Jalen Brown still hasn't gotten an extension. What's going on with that? The Kristaps trade. A lot has happened in the NBA, but I felt most intrigued by this in-season tournament and what it could possibly bring to the NBA. And this tournament is way bigger than any small substantial move that could have happened in free agency. So, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to click like, subscribe, share, fucking, yeah. So yeah, I just figured it was a semi-night. I don't know. It's pretty hot. I don't know why I came outside. I think I just like the vibe for the videos, but it's hot out here. So like the video, I guess. I don't know. I don't like begging to a camera. Anyways, bye.